The emergency alarm screamed through every corridor of the Galactic Preservation Facility like a dying quasar, and frankly, I was ready to resign right then and there. My name is Vortok, Senior Xenobiologist, at what the humans insist on calling a zoo, though we prefer the term Interspecies Conservation Complex. Sounds more dignified, less like we are running a circus. For the past 16 cycles, I had maintained a spotless safety record. 16 cycles. Do you know how many species we house here? 743, each one more likely to kill you than the last, and now this. Vortok. My assistant Plexa came skittering into my office on her 6 legs, all 4 of her eyes wide with panic. It is out. Code Vermilion. The Ravager is loose. I felt my 3 stomachs drop simultaneously, which is an incredibly unpleasant sensation, let me tell you. Which Ravager? I asked, though I already knew. We only had one creature classified as Ravager status, and that was because no other classification seemed adequate. The thing was from Krell 9, a death world so hostile that simply describing it violates 17 different galactic safety protocols. The Krell Ravager, Plexa confirmed, her voice climbing several octaves. Containment breach in Sector 7. It ripped through reinforced durasteel like wet paper. Perfect. Just perfect. The one creature in our facility that could theoretically kill every living being on the station was now playing hide and seek. I grabbed my emergency tranquilizer rifle, though I knew it would be about as effective as throwing pebbles at a supernova. The Krell Ravager stood 3 meters tall, possessed serrated claws that could slice through combat armor, had reflexes faster than neural synapses, and a temperament that made volcanic eruptions seem calm by comparison. Lock down all sectors, I barked at Plexa. Get the combat drones online. Alert the council. And for the love of all that is holy, find out where it went. We raced through the corridors, my security team assembling around me. Jex, our head of tactical response, was a Thorian, built like a walking tank. Even he looked nervous. Sir, tracking sensors show the Ravager moved through sectors 7, 8, and 9 in under 2 minutes, he reported, his gravelly voice tight. Current location unknown. Last confirmed sighting was near the human exhibits. My blood, all 3 types, went cold. The human exhibits. I repeated slowly. Please tell me you are joking. Jex's expression answered that question, the humans. Of course it would go toward the humans. Because apparently, my day was not catastrophic enough already. Now, let me explain something about humans. When they first applied for membership in the galactic community, we thought it was a prank. Their planet, Earth, is classified as a Class 12 death world. For context, Krell 9 is Class 11. These creatures evolved dodging meteorites, predators with ridiculous bite forces, microscopic killers we cannot even see, and weather patterns that swing from frozen wasteland to scorching desert faster than you can say environmental catastrophe. But humans. They looked so soft. So fragile. They do not have natural armor, no venom, no claws worth mentioning. They are not even particularly strong by galactic standards. When they showed up at the council chambers wearing their little fabric coverings and smiling with their flat teeth, we collectively thought, how cute. They dressed up their pets. We were idiots. Anyway, we have a small human habitat in the facility. 3 humans, volunteers from Earth who wanted to help promote human integration into galactic society. Educational purposes, cultural exchange, that sort of thing. Their enclosure is designed to mimic Earth environments, complete with something they call grass and a yellow star simulator, and now a Krell Ravager was heading straight toward them. Evacuate the humans immediately, I ordered. Get them to the emergency shelters. Already tried, sir, Jex replied. They are not responding to comms. Of course they were not. We sprinted toward the human habitat, every sensor screaming warnings about the Ravager's approach. The facility's automated defense systems should have activated, should have slowed it down at least. Should have. Past tense. Because apparently, the Ravager had systematically destroyed each defensive measure like it was swatting annoying insects. We burst through the entrance to the human habitat zone, weapons raised, expecting carnage. What we found instead defied every law of physics, biology, and common sense I had ever learned. The Ravager was there, all right. 3 meters of scaled death, claws that gleamed like obsidian blades, muscles coiled with enough power to punch through starship hulls. But instead of being covered in the blood of its victims, instead of standing atop a pile of human remains while howling victoriously, it was doing something completely unexpected. It was curled up on the lap of one of the human security guards. Sleeping. I blinked all 6 of my eyes in sequence, certain I was hallucinating. Perhaps the stress had finally broken my mind. The human in question, a male named Marcus Kane according to his identification badge, sat in a chair outside the habitat's main building. He looked completely unconcerned about the fact that the deadliest predator, in 3 sectors, was using him as a pillow. In fact, he was gently scratching behind the Ravager's auditory ridges while humming something melodic. The creature, the absolute nightmare that had every civilized being in the facility preparing for evacuation, was making a sound I had never heard before. A deep, rumbling vibration that seemed almost content. I said intelligently. What? Marcus looked up and smiled, that peculiar human expression that shows all their teeth, but somehow does not signal aggression. Oh, hey there, Vortok. Yeah, sorry about the alarm. I tried to call it off, but the system would not let me override it. Everything is fine here. Fine. I repeated, my voice climbing into ranges usually reserved for emergency broadcasts. That is a Krell Ravager. The most dangerous terrestrial predator in the known galaxy. It tore through reinforced containment like tissue paper. Marcus glanced down at the sleeping monster on his lap with genuine affection. You mean Ripley here? Yeah, she seemed pretty stressed. Poor thing was just scared. Scared. Plexa whispered beside me. It was scared. Sure, Marcus continued, still scratching the Ravager's head ridges. See, her enclosure's environmental controls were malfunctioning. Temperature was dropping fast, humidity was all wrong. She panicked, broke out looking for somewhere comfortable. Classic stress response. The Ravager, Ripley apparently, shifted slightly and made that rumbling sound again. She is purring, Jex said flatly. The Krell Ravager is purring. Well, yeah, Marcus replied, like this was the most normal thing in the universe. Took a while to calm her down. She was pretty worked up when she first got here, all hissing and slashing. But I have a cat back home. Similar body language, really. Just had to let her know she was safe, give her some space, then offer some scritches once she settled. Now look at her. Total sweetheart. I stared. My entire security team stared. Somewhere in the distance, I swear I heard the universe laughing at me. You compared a Krell Ravager to a cat, I stated slowly. Apex predator is an apex predator, Marcus shrugged. They all want the same basic things. Food, safety, maybe some affection. Ripley here just needed someone to recognize she was not actually trying to hurt anyone. She was trying to survive. Right, girl. The Ravager, in response, lifted one massive paw and placed it gently on Marcus's arm. Human zookeepers, I realized at that moment, were absolutely insane, and I was definitely putting in my resignation. So there I stood, senior xenobiologist with 16 cycles of experience, watching a human security guard cuddle the galaxy's most feared predator like it was some kind of oversized pet, and honestly, I needed a drink. Several drinks. Maybe an entire barrel of Centaurian whiskey. Vortok, what are your orders? Jex asked, still gripping his plasma rifle like it might spontaneously make this situation make sense. Orders. What orders could possibly apply here? There was no protocol for this. No manual that covered scenario, deadly predator found napping on human. I had checked. Believe me, I checked after this happened. Marcus, I began carefully, using the tone usually reserved for talking to someone experiencing a psychotic break. I need you to very, very slowly move away from the Ravager. Ripley, he corrected. Whatever. Just, please, for the love of sanity, get away from it before it wakes up and remembers it is a killing machine. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed through the habitat zone, and several of my security team flinched, expecting the Ravager to explode into violence at the noise. Instead, the creature's eyes opened slowly, revealing those vertical pupils that had haunted my nightmares since we first acquired her. She looked directly at me, and I felt every survival instinct I possessed scream to run. Then she yawned, showing rows of serrated teeth designed to tear through armored hide, closed her eyes again, and nuzzled closer to Marcus. See? Harmless, Marcus said cheerfully. That thing is about as harmless as a singularity bomb. Plexa squeaked. She is just misunderstood, Marcus insisted, continuing his gentle scratching. Look, Krell 9 is a death world, right? High gravity, extreme temperatures, constant predator pressure. Creatures from environments like that develop hyperactive threat responses. It is not aggression, it is hypervigilance. Back on Earth, we have similar cases. Rescue animals from bad situations need time, patience, and understanding. You are comparing interstellar xenobiology to rescuing animals. I asked, wondering if humans had a concept of professional boundaries. Why not? Fear is fear, stress is stress, regardless of how many limbs you have or what planet you evolved on. Ripley here just needed someone to read her body language correctly. When she first charged in here, I noticed her tail was low, her ear ridges were flat, her breathing was rapid. Those are not attack postures. Those are panic signals. Jex lowered his weapon slightly. How could you possibly know Krell Ravager body language? Marcus pulled out a small data pad from his pocket, being careful not to disturb the sleeping predator. Did my research. Read every behavioral study on Krell 9 fauna. Watched hours of footage. Made notes. See, humans have this thing where we really like understanding animals. It is kind of our specialty. Your specialty is being concerningly comfortable with death, I muttered. That too, Marcus agreed without shame. My communication device chirped. The station commander, a Vulgorian named Tresh, appeared on the screen looking like he had aged several cycles in the past hour. Vortok. Status report. Do we need to evacuate the station? Is the Ravager contained? How many casualties? I glanced at the scene before me, the sleeping monster, the relaxed human, the complete absence of violence. Situation is under control, Commander. Under control. How? Our best combat teams could not handle a Krell Ravager. Well, sir, it turns out we do not need combat teams. We just need a human with what he calls cat experience. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the connection died. Explain, Tresh finally said, his voice dangerously quiet. I explained. The environmental malfunction, the panic response, Marcus's intervention, the current napping situation. With each word, I watched Tresh's expression cycle through disbelief, confusion, anger, more confusion, and finally resigned acceptance. So you are telling me, Tresh said slowly, that the creature we spent 2 million credits on containment systems for, the creature that required a specialized facility rated for Class 10 threats, is currently sleeping on a human security guard, because he gave it scratches. Technically, he calls them scritches, sir. I am going to pretend I did not hear that. Get that creature back into containment. Repair the environmental controls. And find out how in the name of the eternal void this happened. The communication cut off, leaving me with the unenviable task of separating Marcus from his new best friend. Okay, Marcus, time to move, I said firmly. We need to get Ripley back to her enclosure. Sure thing, Marcus agreed easily. But first, you might want to fix her habitat. She is not going back if it is still broken. Would you sleep in a freezing room? He had a point. Annoyingly, he had a very good point. 2 hours later, after our engineering team repaired the environmental controls and verified everything was functioning correctly, Marcus finally stood up. The Ravager immediately woke, rising to her full intimidating height. My security team tensed, weapons ready. Marcus simply scratched under her chin and started walking toward the containment area. Come on, girl. Let us get you home. And the Ravager followed. Just followed him. Like an obedient pet. 3 meters of scaled death, trotting along behind a human who barely reached its shoulder height. This is not happening, Plexa whispered. I am hallucinating. Stress-induced hallucination. If you are, then we all are, I replied. We processed behind them, maintaining what we hoped was a safe distance, though at this point, I was not sure what qualified as safe anymore. Marcus led Ripley right back to her enclosure, checked the environmental settings personally, and gave her one final scratch before stepping out. The Ravager watched him go with what I could only describe as disappointment. She likes you, I observed unnecessarily. Yeah, well, I like her too. She is a good girl, Marcus said, completely ignoring the fact that good girls typically do not have the capacity to decapitate most known species. As we sealed the containment unit, this time with backup systems and about 15 redundancies, I turned to Marcus with a question that had been burning in my mind. Why? Why would you approach something that dangerous? You could have hidden, waited for containment teams, followed every logical safety protocol. Instead, you sat down and pet it. Why? Marcus considered this, his strange human face thoughtful. Back on Earth, we have a saying. Every creature is just trying to survive. That Ravager, Ripley, she is far from home, stuck in an artificial environment, completely dependent on beings she does not understand. When her world started breaking, she did what any scared animal would do. She ran. And yeah, she is dangerous. But so are plenty of things on Earth. We figured out a long time ago that understanding beats fighting almost every time. Your planet must be insane, Plexa said. Oh, absolutely, Marcus agreed cheerfully. But that is kind of the point. When you grow up dodging everything from tiny bacteria to massive predators, from earthquakes to hurricanes, you learn to read situations fast. You learn that most creatures, no matter how dangerous, are not evil. They are just doing what they need to survive. Ripley did not want to hurt anyone. She wanted to feel safe. I watched through the observation window as Ripley settled into her newly repaired habitat, the temperature and humidity now perfectly calibrated for Krell 9 specifications. She looked content, if a massively dangerous predator could look content. Humans are very strange, I said finally. Yeah, we get that a lot, Marcus grinned. But hey, strange works sometimes. The incident report I filed that day became legendary throughout the Galactic preservation facility. Command initially wanted to terminate Marcus's employment, citing reckless endangerment and violation of approximately 60 safety protocols. Then they watched the security footage. All of it. Watched a human correctly interpret alien predator behavior, successfully de-escalate a catastrophic situation, and resolve the crisis without a single casualty. 3 months later, Marcus was promoted to Chief of Interspecies Behavioral Relations. His first act was implementing a comprehensive animal psychology program, training staff to recognize stress signals across species. Escape attempts dropped by 70% within the first quarter, and Ripley. She became something of a facility mascot, though we still maintained strict containment protocols. Marcus visited her daily, spending time in the observation area, occasionally entering the habitat itself when properly supervised, though most of us just waited outside having minor panic attacks. As for me, I did not resign. Instead, I wrote a paper on human death world adaptability and its applications in xenobiological crisis management. It got published in 6 major scientific journals. I am still not sure if that is an achievement or an admission that the universe is far stranger than we ever imagined, but I learned something important that day, watching Marcus Kane sit calmly with a Krell Ravager sleeping on his lap. Never, ever underestimate a species that evolved by befriending the very things trying to kill them. Humans are not just survivors. They are the galaxy's most persistent optimists, convinced that every creature, no matter how deadly, just needs understanding, patience, and apparently, scritches, and somehow, impossibly, they are usually right.